Going to the dentist for the first time in 2 years, and I'm fucking nervous, and I just want to call and cancel even though my appointment's in 5 minutes and then just go and buy candles. That's what I want to do. Oh my god, so I went in and I had my x-rays and everything was like completely fine. So nervous, oh my god, so nervous. And he suggested a night guard because I've been experiencing sensitivity, and I thought maybe it's because I changed my toothpaste, because I stopped using a toothpaste with fluoride in it, or whatever it is. And yeah, and I sleep with a retainer in anyway, so it's not really going to make a difference to me, so I could do that. But it's not because there's anything wrong with my teeth or anything. And so he mentioned this, that it's something that comes up very frequently in his practice these days, that people started grinding since Corona, I shouldn't say the word, since the thing started. And I'm like, yeah, you know, I haven't really thought about that, but actually, yeah, I do get like a sore jaw sometimes, and I get a sore neck, and these are all like linked, aren't they? So this brings me to my topic for today, and I should probably film it at home rather than in the car, but I've been meaning to do this for a whole week and I haven't done it. And I just wanted to talk about, because it's come up in conversation like 2 or 3 times with different people, about what is the purpose of like evaluating and like looking into incidents in your childhood. Why do you do that? And it's not because it's trendy, or you know, people suggest that you ought to do that, and so you just do it, and then it puts you in a funk, and then you're like, why have I even done this? Or you know, sometimes it's, you get an overwhelming urge to like examine things, and then you look into it, and then it kind of disillusions you, and it makes you feel like, you know, things aren't exactly as I remember them, and how am I supposed to live with this now, and whatever. And you know, the whole point of doing what they call, the trendy word for it is shadow work, is to empower you. It's not to put you in a funk, because the thing is that, like, obviously these things are going to upset you. Maybe you're going to, you know, find yourself freaking night grinding like I've been doing. Wait a second. Wait, does that mean something that it's not supposed, that wasn't my intention for it to mean? You know, grinding my teeth, you know, and not realizing it. And I'd rather film at home. There's a lot going on here. And there's a lot going on here. And yeah, so, you know, the point of that isn't to get you in some kind of funk, because like the couple of conversations that I've had with a couple of people is that, you know, you can tend to get stuck in like feeling sad, or feeling like you'd been done wrong. And well, the truth of the matter is that you had been done wrong, so that is true, but you shouldn't sit in the sadness like that. Again, like, you know, when I talk about emotions on this channel, emotions are meant to come and go. They're not meant to stay with you. And if you're uncovering like deep wounds, or like deeply buried wounds, things that you weren't even aware of, consciously aware of, or patterns that you weren't consciously aware that you had, but they relate to your childhood, it can be quite upsetting. Like, you could cause sadness, or like anger, or this just overall sense of like disappointment, and like, you know, how and why has this happened to me? And the point isn't to stay in that. You know, you feel that, and then feel it right the way through, and let it go. Remind yourself that you're actually blessed to have the ability to examine things like that, because, you know, for every one person that can examine these things, I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and estimate that there's 50,000 that don't, okay? So you're actually blessed to be able to identify patterns within yourself, within your family history, you know, within your DNA, because these things imprint on your DNA, and then next thing you know, like, it's being passed on to future generations. if it hasn't been addressed. And then the same pattern occurs in families. Like, you wonder why certain families have certain patterns, and it's because things don't go addressed. So you are blessed to be able to identify things and work through them and heal them. And it's really important to remember that I should hold this higher, I just don't want to get all the cars and the people in the background. You're really blessed to you're really blessed to be able to identify that and to do something about it. And you're not a victim, although it may seem like you are, because, you know, you might think to yourself, how could this have happened, and why, you know, why weren't things better and whatever. But you're not a victim, you're actually blessed. It's a different perspective, like to look at tragedy that has befallen upon you in a different light. Like, why did this happen? Well, maybe it happened for a good reason. Maybe, you know, if it hadn't happened, then I wouldn't have learned this, or if I hadn't uncovered this truth, then I would just be repeating the same pattern in my life forever, ad infinitum. Like, nobody wants that. Nobody consciously wants that anyway. And the other thing is that many times, like, and for most of us, we may have felt usurped, literally usurped from our throne, from our place of power, and, like, you know, taken from your high position as king and queen of your own life, and, you know, placed in this awful situation that you just couldn't quite understand how it could have happened to you. And so you felt usurped. And so, you know, what actually happened here is that a pattern was broken down on your behalf without you realizing it. And it's your job to work through that and to understand, wait a second, what is the lesson to be learned here? And then how do I overcome this and make sure that it doesn't happen, not just to me, but down the line for generations to come. This doesn't happen again, that this pattern doesn't repeat again. And so actually, really, it is a blessing to be usurped sometimes. It doesn't feel great, but I know it's happened to the best of us. And also, you know, this issue with being removed from a place of glory and then, you know, placed in the trash, as it were. That lesson is there to show you where your power lies, because you are always powerful, even if you don't have a dime to your name, even if people are talking about you behind your back, even if gossip is spread about you, if you've been humiliated, if you've been stolen from, treated cruelly, abandoned, violated in some way, that's there to show you your actual fucking power, because you're always powerful in your own story, and it's up to you to turn that thing around and grab life by the horns and take control of your own life and be in charge of your own life, no matter what your situation looks like. And that's the whole point of shadow work. It's not to be sad forever, or to fall into a sense of victimhood, or a sense of like, how could this have happened to me and poor me? Because actually, everybody has some bullshit story. There isn't a person on this planet that doesn't have a shitty story. And this actually reminds me of this interaction that I wasn't even a part of, but I wasn't surprised by it. And so it's a friend of mine who had some tragedy occur in her life, and which many of us have. And somebody commented to her when she was talking about this, that this person was surprised that someone that is successful and beautiful would ever have any kind of tragedy in their life. And this person was like kind of almost humbled and surprised, and it's like, wow, okay, like, so people are really out there judging people, like, I guess in a positive, not just in a negative way, but in a positive way, like looking at people thinking, oh, nothing bad has ever happened to you, what would you know? And it's like, that's so self-centered to think that, to think that you're, I mean, I don't mean to be a dick or anything, but it is self-centered to think that you're the only person that's ever had a terrible thing happen to them, or you're the only person that's ever had a terrible fucking marriage, or you're the only person that's ever been, like, you know, mistreated, or whatever it is, because you're not. And so the whole point of doing this activity is actually to show you that, like, this is life. These are our soul's journeys, and we're not here to just, you know, eat, sleep, and seek entertainment in various ways. That's not what we're here for. I mean, what kind of existence would that be? It would be really strange, wouldn't it? And yeah, and so now I'm gonna go and get myself some candles like I said I would, and I'm really glad that everything went well at the dentist. I moved because there's an Ironman about to take place in the next few days over there, so it's just a lot going on. So yeah, and so what can you do about this to make yourself feel better? Well, there's this meditation that I accidentally did. It just came to me like a year ago. And I picked up a pot of snapdragons, which are my favorite flower, and did I pick up the pot? I don't remember what I did exactly, but anyway, I touched the flowers, and yeah, and I just like closed my eyes, and I just kind of wanted to see what would come up. And those, I really like them because they remind me of where I grew up, and there used to be rows and rows and rows of snapdragons, endless rows of snapdragons, it seemed, as a child. That's what it seemed like. And so it just reminded me of that, you know, being a kid and just really loving flowers. Like, me and my sister used to like literally sit out in the garden, and that's what we'd just like doing. Like, we'd pretend to be Thumbelina and like pick up flowers. And that's what we'd do. So very girly. And yeah, so it started with that, just, you know, that came up for me. And then I just started to remember things that were really joyful about being a kid. And like, one of the things was like being in Florida on holiday and going to Disney World, and it was just like, the memories are so vivid. It's almost like they just happened, and obviously that was quite a while ago now. And just like little things like that, you know, that we don't focus on when we're doing shadow work, or that when we're examining, like, you know, things that just were really not right about our childhoods. Like, we've put all our focus on the negative things, and we put all our focus on labeling those negative things. Like, you know, there's many terms for ways in which, like, you know, for family dynamics that aren't great. Like, maybe there was parentification going on in your house. Maybe you were parentalized. Maybe you were infantilized. You know, maybe there was this, maybe there was that, emotional neglect, you know, not being heard, or, you know, maybe you were constantly placed in a position of competition where, like, you need to be better than your cousin, or like whoever it is. Or, you know, maybe you grew up in a very achievement-based household, or, I mean, you know, it's just endless. It's like this, it's endless, like how you can label negative experiences. And at the end of the day, like, all these experiences are just unobserved and unexamined patterns. You know, a lot of times, like, you know, when parents are very unattuned, and I mean, I'm not making excuses, but it was a lot easier to be unattuned when there was an internet. It was just a lot, you know, I mean, what else are you going to do? You're only going to do what you know, and what you know is this. And if you've never examined it and thought about it, like, is this actually a good thing? Then how would you know that it's not a good thing to do? Whereas, like, there's very little excuse now because we have the internet, we have YouTube, like, you know, it's so easy to access knowledge now, whereas it wasn't before. And so it's really important to, like, when you're uncovering these things, the point isn't to get angry at people and cut people out, though if you want to, that's entirely up to you. But the point is to it's just to simply examine these patterns so that they don't repeat for you in your life. Because, you know, sometimes, like, the role that you were erroneously given growing up which wasn't your choice, like maybe you know what your first choice would have been. Like my first choice would have been to like go to performing arts school, but I didn't get to do that, you know. Like, you know what your first choice would have been, whereas you're placed in a situation where you didn't get to do what you actually wanted to do, and you were given also a role within your family, whatever that may have been, and you're given a role as an individual, whatever that may have been. So, I mean, a lot of people can relate to that, like not truly being seen, and that's what attunement is. It's when you, like when you, attunement is to, oh my God, where are my words? I'm really distracted when I'm not at home. Attunement is to notice like the essence of who this child actually is, and to not go, okay, this is a family structure, and so in this unit we have this person and that person, and these people play these roles, and I expect this of this person and I expect that of that person, because that's fucking controlling. Okay. And you know, you don't want that. You want to observe these things, like, are you controlling? Is it because you grew up in a controlling environment? Do you expect everything to be a certain way? Do you expect your partner to be exactly like this, and to dress like this, and to look like that, and you know, and to have this opinion about this and that opinion about that? Because that's unattuned, and frankly it's not very loving. And that's the other thing. So, you know, you can find yourself in patterns that you don't even want to be in, but because if they're unexamined, how would you know that you're getting into them? And it's not until, as I say, tragedy strikes, that's when we actually go ahead and look at things. And sometimes tragedy never strikes, and it takes a really, really, really long time to notice things, and to wake up in your own life and think, I don't like this. I don't like this pattern. I don't like, you know, what's come in for me, or what I've allowed in. And so the whole purpose of everything is to be able to tell what's up. It's to be able to observe patterns so that you have more control over what comes in. And maybe you don't strictly have control over what comes in, but you have more discernment, and you're able to go, I see what this is. I don't want it. Thank you very much. And to have the wherewithal to be able to stand in your power and be very firm about what you do want and don't want, and to not, you know, to not feel like you have to accept things that you don't want, because that's another pattern that comes from childhood. Like, why would anybody accept something that they don't want or that doesn't bring them joy? Nobody consciously does that. It's an unconscious pattern. So to return to that meditation, so it was just so joyful. And then what happened was it became like, what's the word? It became more trippy, and at first it was just like retrieving memories, but without me actually actively retrieving them. They just sort of came to me. And then after that, it was almost like I was meeting with like the 8-year-old version of myself. And she didn't speak, but she just showed me things. Like, she took me around the house and showed me things, almost like a weird fucking dream, where if you're in a certain room in your house, like, you know, different rooms have different meanings in your subconscious's vocabulary that clearly doesn't speak English or any other language, shows you symbolism. And so basically this little Latifa, was showing me around the house, and she was showing me things. And so like the first thing she showed me was in the kitchen, and she was making an omelet. And so my comment to her, my observation was, oh wow, this is wonderful, like, you did this by yourself. And she did do it by herself, you know, like she had done it by herself. And I remember I used to be able to do things like that. And obviously if you've been in my house, you know that I'm a really good cook. And so I've always been able to do that, even as a little child. And but like it was nice to hear validation from an adult, because I'm an adult, okay, and I'm someone with discernment and attunement. And so it was nice to be able to hear that from someone else, someone that wasn't in that house at that time. And then she showed me a couple of other things, and she showed me her Barbie house, and I was like, wow, this is so nice. And then she showed me some other things, and she showed me like her schoolwork, and then I understood what that meant. And it meant like, I don't like this. And then I said to her, you know, I know you don't like it, and there's nothing you can do about that, and you'll just have to do it. But you know, some things build characters, they say, I guess. I mean, do you have to have that experience in life? I don't know whether you have to have that or not, but at the end of the day, like, I do have true fucking grit, which not everybody has, so I can say that. And I mean, I didn't say that to an 8-year-old version of myself, but I just said, I know it's not what you want, you want something else, but there's nothing that I can do. I'm sorry, I can't do anything about that. You'll just have to do it. And it was like a more understanding approach than, you know, just being told no, or not understanding why there's no alternative, you know. And it was very interesting that that came about. And I didn't really think to make a video on that at the time, because I didn't really know how to link it into anything. I mean, it just was my personal experience. And then I know people pay a lot of money to do these things, like they go for hypnosis regressions and or you know, do plant medicine or whatever, to arrive at these sort of conclusions. But it just happened on its own, so I was really happy about that. But I think, you know, how to link that into this video is that what was illuminated to me was a lot of times, like, we can get caught up in YouTube videos because that's available to us now. So we can go down this rabbit hole of like watching videos about family dynamics and this and that and whatever. And although it's beneficial to label things and to validate your experience and to finally go, there's a name for this and whatever, there's also a not so great side, which is you can actually become quite addicted to learning more about this stuff. But without it actually healing you or helping you in any way, it just sort of makes you feel more like a victim rather than empowering you. And so it's really important to balance these things out. So you want to identify the patterns, but then you also want to balance it out with like remembering things that were really good, because it wasn't all really bad. It's just, it can feel that way when you're overwhelmed with examining these things, that some things really actually were not fair at all, and they can't be changed. They really can't be changed. And they really weren't fair at all. Like, if you were responsible for bringing yourself up, if that was a thing, you definitely wouldn't have done it that way, right? So, you know, that does need to be validated and honored and given the, you know, the adequate amount of feeling that it needs. But at the same time, that's not the only point of focus. You can't just focus on the one thing. And so that's really what I wanted to highlight here. And now I'm going to go buy my candles. Thank you.